You mentioned the judge's ruling, right? It's a really important one. Let me read it. It's number 5. Through its extensive proof, Dominion has met its burden of showing there is no genuine issue of material fact as to falsity. Fox, therefore, had the burden to show an issue of material fact existed. In turn, Fox failed to meet its burden. The evidence developed in the civil proceeding demonstrates that it's crystal clear that none of the statements relating to Dominion about the 2020 election are true.
Let me explain why this is such a big deal and why this was such a big loss to Fox. In traditional defamation cases, when we covered Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, one of the central questions is, are the statements false? That's not easy to prove. The jury doesn't have to decide that now. That big hurdle they don't have to go through. Now, I will tell you, actual malice, whether or not these statements were made, knowing they're false or with the reckless disregard, that's not easy either. But I think right now, the fact that the jury only has to decide this second issue is a big problem for Fox.
And Jane, I played that piece of sound before of Maria Bartiromo questioning Rudy Giuliani. But to some degree, you could argue that helps Fox, right? There you have Maria Bartiromo trying to dig, saying, hey, what's the evidence? What are the facts? What do you got? Right?
Yeah, I think so, because again, there is an argument that having on guests to state controversial, not yet proven viewpoints is a legitimate journalistic thing to do. One of the key questions throughout this case has been, did Fox endorse these statements?
Yeah.
You know, they privately referred to some of these people as wackadoodles. You might choose to have a wackadoodle on your show. Yeah. For, I don't know, viewing, ratings, amusement purposes, but your obligation as a journalist would be to push back against that. So yes, I think that does help them to some extent.
But there's a difference, Jesse, between a journalistic obligation and a legal obligation, right? Yes, a journalistic obligation is to push back. You have Tucker Carlson, number 7, Tucker Carlson texting Laura Ingraham and Hannity. Sidney Powell is lying, by the way. I caught her. It's insane. She was one of the ones who was making some of the most insane comments on Fox News. But is just putting Sidney Powell on the air after that point Fox's legal responsibility?
Well, I think the question is, if viewers are watching that, aren't they expecting, are they just saying, oh, this is just opinion, this is just entertainment? They could reasonably perceive that as true. Why wouldn't they? Otherwise, what's the point of having somebody like Sidney Powell on? What's the point of making that comment? And when you have a case like this and the evidence turns up and you see they're saying one thing on air and thinking something completely in private, that's like a lawyer's dream to have this kind of evidence.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.